all art, all activities are more than what they are on the surface, in my opinion. Whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's writing, much more is taking place than just that one activity. The catch is how to bring that to the surface, how to help people gain an awareness of it, even small children, and for the teacher to be aware of the many skills that are going on simultaneously while kids are, say, painting or drawing or working on a collaborative project.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to F5 Collective presents Women in Business. We have another episode with the wonderful Nan Young of Art Trek, and I'm so excited that we'll be able to be chatting with her today. Glad you could join us. Nan.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. What goes into a nonprofit? What makes a nonprofit?
Right. So it's an interesting question. So a 501c3 is a nonprofit corporation.
Okay.
So there is revenue and activity and contract. There are contracts, but a percentage, and that's a flexible number of dollars and investment gets returned to the community.
Got it.
And we are audited annually for that. So we put back into the community close to $1 million
Wow.
in time. So we don't charge for lots of community events. We send people out to help out other nonprofits. We go to community activities as guests to help out with art activities, face painting, volunteers to help move crowds, whatever's needed. And usually it's in the artistic venue, but not always.
Right.
And we don't charge. So we make decisions all the time. Who's going to get an activity or a contract or an event or be able to use our studio at no cost. So we have a number of groups that come in at no cost. But there are plenty of groups that have to pay to work with us. But on a regular basis, every Wednesday we have a group come in of special needs adults, and they do not pay to come in. And they come in, I think you might have been in the studio that day. Okay,
Yeah.
so they do not pay to use our studio for their volunteer work. They help us, or for their art activities, or for their celebrations, which happen about every maybe 2 months. We have parties for them, for the group. And they come in, we utilize 5 staff for that, for the morning, and there's setup and cleanup and lots of materials. And all of that is covered through grants and just out of our funding that we have. That's one example. We do a lot of work for the financially struggling families in the Thousand Oaks community. Once a month on Saturdays, we have 5 staff, up to 5 staff, attend an event. I think Brandon's gone to our Safe Passage youth activities, and we pick up produce, a ton, 800 or 900 pounds of produce for that event. And we used to do that weekly. The event is now monthly. And all of that is just covered by us. It's a give back to the community. And there are so many different events that happen monthly.
Right.
That we just return via finances, time, space to the community.
What was it that led to you to choose with Art Trek to have it be nonprofit rather than for-profit?
Well, that's kind of back into its history. So Art Trek was originally just a PTA program for my kids. And I don't know if I've shared this story with you, but I have 2 children. One, now they're 41 and 38.
Okay.
So they're hardly children. I have 2 grown children and a few grandkids. When my daughter was 2.5, I wanted to get her enrolled for the future for kindergarten in the school where my son was attending. I was told because she has cerebral palsy, she could not attend a regular school.
Right.
She had to go to the schools where all children with some kind of physical disability attend with special needs teachers and ramps and rails. And I thought, well, gosh, all she needs is a ramp and a rail. So I spoke with the principal of my son's kindergarten and said, I would like my daughter to attend a regular school. At that point, she said, well, I don't think she can because we're not accessible for your daughter. And I said, there was no ADA back then. This is like 1990. And I said, well, what would it take to get a ramp and a rail? And she said, gosh, I don't know. I have never looked into that before. So I said, how about this? I'll give you an arts program in exchange for a ramp and a rail in 2 years. And she did. She put a ramp and a rail into Ladera Elementary School in Thousand Oaks. Her name was Christy White. And I gave her an arts program in exchange. And that's really where we started. And the arts program met in my dining room. I had volunteers say, sure, we'll join. We had already, we kind of came off of another program that was developed at the school. But that's another story. And we loved doing it together, this group of women. It was all women at that point. And it was moms who weren't working. So that was great. It was fun for us. And my daughter became the first physically disabled, I mean, I can't even call her disabled, but first child who struggled with movement to attend a public school in the Conejo Valley Unified School District with cerebral palsy and made her way all the way through and graduated from Westlake High. So she was a pioneer there. And we as a family pioneered a lot of steps along the way.
Wow.
But because of that exchange, and it really was sort of a service exchange on a handshake, Art Trek had its, I guess the seed was planted. And I had such a great time doing activities with other moms and with the PTA and with the kids at the school that I took all my energy that I had used as a full-time teacher before I moved out to Thousand Oaks and put it into this little project is what I called it then. And slowly it became more official. There was no money involved. It went to the entire school, then it went to another school, just as volunteers, a group of us. We trained parents and teachers to teach art. I had been a classroom teacher for middle school and high school, but in English and theater.
Yeah.
The skills are similar, and I had dabbled in the arts all my life. So it was fairly easy, and I'd worked in a summer program with a great director who taught me a lot. I didn't even know how much I was learning in the 10 years I worked with her, but I was able to sort of transfer those skills to this little project that developed deep roots over many years. And then in 2006, which is quite a bit later, somebody approached me and asked if I was a nonprofit. At that point, I was like, I'm really not anything. And said, if you can manage to become a nonprofit within a year, we will give you a contract for the Catholic Education Foundation. And I, by the way, I'm Jewish, so I was very excited about this. My mom had worked in interreligious activities all of her life, so that was very exciting for me. And they said, we would like you to start an arts program at these little and relatively poor Catholic schools in Los Angeles. So we became a nonprofit in 2006 so that we could take in a grant. And that was the beginning of it. And I really didn't know anything about business, and I didn't know anything about nonprofits, but I learned pretty quickly. And it had not had, up to then, there really was no money involved. Very little. Somebody paid for materials. I wasn't making really anything. And I was spending my personal money, to some degree, on much of what we were doing. So one day, we finally made a little money, and I came home to my husband and I said, oh my gosh, we made some money this year. And he asked, and how much did it cost us? And I thought, well, that's a really mean question, and I have no idea. So he said, take a business class. So I began to study nonprofits and corporate, businesses, small and creative businesses, and gleaned a lot of information over the years. And we're now pretty large.
Well, you've been so. I want to step back a little bit. So you're a native Los Angelino, right?
I am.
Okay.
Well, I was born in Chicago,
Oh,
but
okay.
it doesn't really count because I was like a year.
Okay, no. So
So I'm going to say I'm a native.
there you go. As a native
Yeah.
Los Angelino,
Yes.
I'm letting you have that. You can
Thank you.
absolutely
I
have
appreciate it.
and
Proud.
and you mentioned that you were already teaching before that. How did you get into teaching originally?
I think I
Actually?
was born a
Yeah?
teacher, really.
Yeah.
I was a camp counselor forever.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I was a camper and then a camp counselor at a camp called Hess Kramer.
I was
Hilltop.
actually going to ask you if it was Hess Kramer.
Hess Kramer
I was
and
totally
Hilltop.
going to ask you
Yeah,
that. Okay.
14 years of that. So it's in my blood. And although my mother wasn't a teacher, she was fully engaged in the community. And I liked that environment. I think I just was born to be in that environment. So I went to UC Santa Cruz, and I graduated as a theater director.
Okay.
Played with that very briefly, decided really wasn't for me. And I had to work long evenings to do lots of stage management work. And I was always behind the scenes and loved it, and loved organizing, loved directing in college. So I ended up teaching English and drama at a high school and a middle school at Chadwick School in Palos Verdes, and I loved it. Thought it was fantastic, and I was pretty much a lifer in that world till my husband's business moved to Simi Valley. And then so I left the teaching and went out to Simi Valley and to Thousand Oaks. He worked in Simi Valley with our young children, and didn't quite know what to do with myself. So having this opportunity to create an arts program, which really, again, I have to say was a teeny tiny program, and I never saw past it. I never looked, down the line at that point, thinking I was going to create a community center. It was just, let's do this well.
Yeah.
And each step was, let's do what we're doing and do it well. So my skills and, what I had learned in the classroom transferred very well as a teacher in the classroom, transferred very well to sort of all creative activities and all organizational work.
Well, you already knew how to navigate the education system because you were in it as a teacher.
Right.
How has it been different, though, as somebody who's now leading this program and working with the schools in a different sort of way? How has that?
So, it's not that different.
Really?
I think the skills you pick up as a teacher, and then I was an administrator during the summers for a summer arts program. I think those skills are all complementary because it's how you get along with people, how you view people, whether it's employees or your colleagues, your peers. It's having a good sense of the nature of human beings. I think it involves trusting people, communicating with people, and I'm really enthusiastic about what we're doing and what I've always done. So I'm very lucky because I've lived in a world I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think everybody can say that. So, and in the creative world.
Yeah.
But it's always had its confines because in the schools and in the classrooms, you can't be wildly creative. There are parameters, which I like, actually. I think that allows us to develop our executive skills, which are really important when you're working with people.
Yeah.
And people's money, and with really time constraints and the allowance of what you can bring into a classroom and what you can do with different age students. All of that has framework. So knowing your parameters and working as hard as you can to dig deeply into those parameters and bring as much as you can within that framework allows us to work, I think, with a very sort of concise view of what can be done. Within that, you go as deeply as you can in the creativity of it.
Right.
And then you think, what kinds of skills can I bring to the lives of these students? whether they're adults or they're children. How much can I teach in an hour? What can they learn over the course of the year? And although it's the creative activities, and we teach through the arts, we teach many things beyond just drawing, which I think in and of itself is wonderful, or painting, or sculpting, because I think life skills are developed while those activities are taking place. And that is probably the core of what we bring to the schools, or the community centers, or the colleges we've worked in, and the classrooms that have invited us in as guests. It is more than an art activity.
Yeah.
All activities are more than what they are on the surface, in my opinion, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's writing. Much more is taking place than just that one activity. The catch is how to bring that to the surface, how to help people gain an awareness of it, even small children, and for the teacher to be aware of the many skills that are going on simultaneously while kids are, say, painting or drawing or working on a collaborative project.
Yeah.
So for that, I think we're we excel in being aware of sort of that spiral outward of what we're bringing to the community for all ages while we're doing the arts.
Well, you've got a great group of docents, right? And I mean, how many docents?
Well, we have the docents would be the volunteers, but we have a staff.
Yeah, you have a staff, right? How many staff do you have right now?
Well, we have about 15 people working in the arts and working daily. So it's a large nonprofit now, and we're in over 100 schools from Long Beach to Santa Barbara, and schools and community centers, and we work we work with social workers who work with children. We work with homeschool teachers and parents who work with children. We work with teens. We work with teen centers. We work with senior centers. So anywhere that somebody's interested in bringing creative activities, we're happy to go.
Now, what goes into the training because I'm assuming, well, as the mom of one of them, I know that they don't come
Your son's fabulous.
Thank you. I like him a lot too.
Good teacher.
But,
Good man.
not having any background as a teacher and then coming into this, but having the artistic background, what goes into that training? What is it that you actually even look for, honestly?
It's a great question. I look for a spark, an inner spark in the people we hire. Many of our employees come with an arts background, but not necessarily a teaching background.
Right.
But they have to have that spark that will connect. Some people come with a teaching background, and they've just dabbled in the arts. Nobody applies if they're not interested in the arts, because we're an arts organization. But they haven't been well trained in the arts. We can do that very easily. We're very good teachers when it comes to the arts. People have to come with that sort of inner spark of interest in people and community and the ability to communicate. After that, that I can't give them.
Right.
And I can't give them the enthusiasm or the interest in their world around them. They have to, that's part of who they are. That's woven into them. The details of working in a classroom, managing kids, understanding chaos, those are more like executive skills that we can teach people.
Right.
I look for a clarity in people when they interview. Can they focus? Are they comfortable within their skin? Again, those are things I can't really teach people.
Yeah.
But I can teach them how to manage what they encounter in the new environment of a classroom.
Right.
So And we teach them how to work in teams. We teach them how to collaborate. We teach them how to listen to the kids and listen to each other and how to present. So the theater background I have has worked wonders for
I
me in
bet.
teaching. Yeah.
I bet. Because there's that part of it, right, with theater that, as somebody that was a theater kid, there's that part that helps you to speak to others. It helps you collaborate. It helps you to present and to listen.
To
Right.
listen and to focus.
And to focus, right. I know you also, what I love so much also about what Art Trek does is because the arts are, I was raised to believe how important the arts are and how it's this incredible outlet for self-expression and emotional well-being. Can you speak a little bit to that and your discovery, what you have learned on this journey as you've continued to even grow with Art Trek and what you've seen for what people are experiencing through Art Trek?
Right. Well, I start with the fact that I was a dabbler in many arts. So I was a musician all through middle school and high school. And before that, I played guitar, then I played flute. I have always been interested in writing. I was, a poet for much of my life. I have dabbled in the visual arts as well. So I never stayed focused on a particular art for a long period of time. But I grew up in an artistic family. And my parents were art collectors. My mom loved to paint. She was a painter. She liked to paint, and she loved to write, and she wrote funny things for the groups with whom she worked. So art was always around me. The expressive world was around me. And I couldn't even explain as a young person why I loved it so much, but I knew I did. And everything I touched had a little bit of that flair. I now look at it much more as a necessity for a healthy individual and a healthy world. That people have to have creative endeavors. And those take place in many different ways. But in the moments of being creative, of fully giving yourself to a creative activity, all else can disappear. Your worries, your to-do list, the needs of your family, your personal needs, everything can vanish. And you have a moment of sort of clarity of creation. And I think that's healthy for people to free themselves for the hour they're taking a class, for the day they're involved in a retreat, for the weekend they're involved in a retreat, to let everything else go and then return to their responsibilities and to the needs they have and the people around them have. But that freedom for a moment, whether it's an hour, a creative thought, whatever the time period is, does rejuvenate us, does give us a different way of looking at things than we had an hour ago, 2 hours ago, a weekend ago. So I think the movement away from our daily activities into that creative freedom, even if we're learning something, and that full focus is really healthy and sparks something new inside of us. So art is for everybody in that sense.
Yeah.
We've worked with the engineers and the scientists at Amgen. I've worked with computer engineers. It's really interesting. I've done work with juvenile incarceration facilities. And the youth there, and they're up to age 26, I have loved the classes. And I've taught a lot of them. And I would say, while those youth are in class, they're perfect. They have no problems. They have been able to remove themselves from the concept of their living situation and be entirely focused on some inner spirit within them and to create amazing art or amazing stories, poetry, lyrics, paintings, sculpture. And I've had more than one student say, if I'd known I could do this, I might not be here today. And I think that's metaphorical for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see that. You know, you hear that thing, right? Music soothes the savage beast. I mean, the power of the arts in general is so important and not to be taken lightly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think our society doesn't know this. I hear that people, don't accept creativity. The arts are dying. I don't think so in any way. I think they're very much alive, and I think the schools are recognizing that. The arts are very important, and integrating the arts more and more. And I think art is all around us. I mean, it's still on our walls. It's still on our napkins. It's on our clothing. The music is playing. The theaters are still in high existence.
Yeah.
And it changes form. And it will continue to change form. And as the media around us changes, the expressive arts will have different venues through which the creativity takes place. I mean, look what you're doing. This concept hasn't always been here. And the availability of being able to hear people talk about the arts or to see art is even bigger than it used to be in many ways. So I think the arts are very much alive, and the 100,000 people we work with over the course of the year will continue to follow some form of a creative expression in their lives. I'm not creating professional artists. I think I'm creating people who have an opportunity to think creatively and to make connections in their worlds that they may not have made if they didn't take art classes or if they weren't given sort of guidance into the availability of arts in their world.
Right. What's it been like to take a look at something that started as this beautiful, lovely little PTA program, and now you've got like 100,000 people that you're affecting?
It's hard for me to stand far enough back that I realize that that's happening. I'm still so in it.
Right.
I'm a very hands-on person, so I'm right in there. But occasionally, I'm pretty amazed. Again, I now do have a long view. I'm when one of my pieces of advice is always to other nonprofits and people getting started is know what's happening daily. Take a look at everything really closely. Be right in there. And at the same time, back up and have a sense of your big picture. I didn't do that for the first 20 years. So I was just responding.
Right.
But I do think that that's important too, to pay attention to the needs around you, us. So we didn't advertise. The people I worked with, we were not out there trying to drum up business. We responded to a lot of needs we saw. And in that, when people asked us to do something, whether it was with a contract or with an honorarium or with a donation or for free, we pretty much said yes to everything. And I'd say we're still doing that today. We say yes to pretty much everything. So where it started in the classrooms, we ended up at community centers and senior homes and working in dementia programs and working with really strong, amazing, seniors. What was that, 55? Which seemed a lot older at the time. It seems really young now.
Yes, it does.
But it's welcoming the growth and not judging how you're giving things away as a nonprofit. we said yes to anybody who needed what we could offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do I stand back and go, wow? For a moment, I was able to do that pretty clearly when we moved into a new building this year, and that was really fun, and I loved it. And I could stand back for a moment because I had some quiet time inside and say, wow, this is really beautiful and nice and welcoming to our community.
Yeah.
And outside of that, I don't think I spend a lot of time looking at, like, how amazing this is. But this is a kind of moment when I have an opportunity to reflect on it and go, yeah, we have amazing people in this organization. And for that, I'm really proud.
Yeah.
I feel like we have surrounded ourselves, those of us who have been there a long time, with good people. And that means we are sending good people out into the community.
Yeah. It's true. I've had the opportunity to experience your people, and they are
Good people.
really good humans. And I was going to ask you about the studio space because I remember when you guys were moving in, and I was going to ask about how long have you had this space right now?
Well, we moved in, let's see, we're in the beginning of April. We moved in June, June 15th. I can tell you the date that we were allowed to move in. And we had a lot of people help. So by July 1st, we had a program running.
Good.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was quick.
Yeah.
And we knew what we were doing. We spent a lot of time planning the move. So it was almost like a military, I don't know, endeavor. And we just had everybody we knew, helping us move items and professional teams and couple thousand books and 20 desks and all the art on the walls.
Yeah.
And we just moved in I don't know, we marched in and put everything together in about 10 days.
Wow. Yeah. I remember. Well, I was going to ask you because you do a lot of these wonderful events. You have the $5 Fridays. You've got Family Paint Night. Did those events and activities start when you got that studio, or had they been going on for a while?
They've been going on for a while. So
Okay.
our last studio was donated
Oh, okay.
by a wonderful family. And they had known what we created from the beginning. So they donated a building to us, and I am forever grateful to them for that. And in that studio, we really built up what we could do inside, where we could invite people in with
Right.
us. We had a much smaller studio before that, and we had some events. But we started doing weekly events there. And it became more of a community center. And I had not imagined doing that. But it's been wonderful. We've had 15 $5 Fridays. They're the third Friday of every month in our building. And they started when my sister said, that's so funny. Vaughn's has a $5 Friday. I wonder what that means. And I thought, I like that term. So it started, maybe in 2012.
Oh, wow.
2013, somewhere around there, I think. That's about right. And it's still $5 because you can't raise it. You can't raise the price to $7 Friday. Does not sound fun. So the alliteration became really important. And it's been sponsored by various groups. So it's $5 per person. They can come in and work for 3 hours on 5 art projects. And the community has loved it. We started off, the first one had 20 people, and we now have 100 to 200 people show up to every $5 Friday.
Yeah.
All ages. And I think it's a wonderful event for the community.
Yeah.
So it's sponsored by the City of Thousand Oaks right now. It was sponsored by the Hilton Foundation for a long time. And it will change in its sponsorship as we move forward, I'm sure. And twice a year we create fundraisers. And all the proceeds from the evening go to some other nonprofit organization.
Oh, wow.
So if anybody wants to look online, they can see what's coming up.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and so sometimes we collect food, sometimes we're collecting Crocs right now for an indigenous group in Uganda, and we often have something going on there, working with another nonprofit. We love partnerships, so we're constantly partnering with other nonprofits for some kind of activity.
Right.
And those become long-term relationships.
I was going to say that it probably, from a nonprofit standpoint, sponsorships and collaboration with other nonprofits supporting each other is probably very important.
Big deal. Big
Yeah.
deal. We really believe in that.
Yeah.
Working in partnership. We have a wonderful marriage with the Arts Council of the Conejo Valley on our public art project. So we do these large sculptures, the large Cottontails in the community. They're akin to the ponies of New Mexico and the cows of Chicago.
Yep.
I think I said that correctly. And we have about 25 out right now in the city.
Yeah.
And that took a while. It was not my idea originally. I should say I returned to an idea that another woman had started years before we took it on. And the city wasn't ready for it when Jane Brooks had the original idea. And it sort of went to sleep. She was ill a few years after she started the idea, and it just faded away. And I and a number of people working together just brought it out of the closet, and it took off. It took a little while, but we now have quite a number of sculptures in the community, and the funding from that, the proceeds, end up going back into arts education.
Great.
But partnerships with really any nonprofit or city organization are important. The relationships connect us to the needs in the community, and we support each other in all of our endeavors. So we have so many projects we do where we don't work alone. Youth in Government uses our facility because they need a place to work and to meet with, 20 to 40 teenagers who are interested in politics and legislation for the future.
Wow.
So they have met in our studios for a number of years, and that's a small nonprofit organization. If any nonprofit needs a place to meet, they can contact us in the community, and we'll work out timing for them and space for them. But also nonprofits end up asking us to help them. We're not always the ones saying, oh, we can help you. They'll help us get to know more needs in the community. We have a great relationship with Safe Passage Youth. We are about to work sort of in a large, diverse project with the Juvenile Justice Center for Family Justice. I think it's called Family Justice Center in Ventura County, helping counselors and youth there. So all of us, I think, depend on each other. And it's not just the nonprofits, but the nonprofits have great avenues of communication.
Yeah. Now, do you still play your music and give into your own particular artistic endeavors?
It's so sad. Not very often right now.
No.
So I'll fiddle with, my husband plays guitar, and we'll play a little bit at home. I still play flute on occasion. And I will paint on occasion, but I used to do a lot more than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm really happy with what I'm doing. For me, it's very creative. I enjoy the responsibilities of running this organization. I feel really good about the staff and how, and they're young to me. They're mostly young staff now, and they're going to fan out into the community and do other things as well, because we have just 25 full-time people, maybe 27 now, and close to 100 part-time people. And those part-time people are with us for anywhere from 1 to 5 years, 6 years, 7 years at a time. They will go into teaching, they'll go into business, they'll go into raising families, but what they learn with us will make them better citizens.
Yeah.
Make them better adults. They'll become better communicators from the workshops we create in our studio and through other workshops they get sent to. And that's, I think, part of our job. Our job is to reach out into our community and help people develop into the best human beings they can be. And we do that through the arts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, like we were saying, it's not underrated. The arts are definitely,
No. So our staff, you were asking about the staff, and many of our staff are still in school. And we have had probably 30 employees over time say, I didn't know that I would become a teacher, but after working part-time as an arts teacher, I'm going to go back to school and become a full-time teacher, whether it's an art teacher, a classroom teacher, an elementary school teacher, high school teacher, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But they liked being in that environment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's cool.
yeah.
That's cool. And I actually meant to say the arts are not overrated. They should never be, they are underrated. And you got to really, I don't know, arts saved me. It saved my son, and arts everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I love what you were saying about with the engineers and so forth. There's art in everything we do. It's how we look at it.
Right. It's creative choices.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time talking about helping our students make choices. So we're pretty controlling in the art room. We don't just, go for it.
Right.
Whatever you want to do. So our projects deal with executive functions because we are very directed in how we teach our lessons. But within every lesson, there are lots of choices. And kids like to make choices. Yeah. Adults like to make choices. And they like to make choices that help them feel good about the final product. So I think that's really important at all ages.
Yeah.
That that you have maybe an infinite number of choices. Maybe you have 1 out of 5. But whatever direction you go, you've been able to insert your own personality, your own, favorite color if you're a young kid, your own way of thinking into something you've created from nothing.
Yeah.
So it all starts off as nothing. Every art project, every piece of music, every poem begins with a blank page,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
So everything you put on top of that is something that comes straight from you.
Yeah. That's so true. Now, what's next for Art Trek? I know you're working with juvenile youth and all this other stuff, but are there any other special events or activities that you guys have planned coming up?
Gosh, well, we have a drum circle night coming up in our studio.
Oh!
That's in about 2 weeks. We have art, art for adults, art for kids, art for families, arts for the community all the time. If somebody goes on our website, we're arttrek.org. But in terms of the trajectory of Art Trek, I've never known. So I'm going to say I have an interest right now in looking into developing the performance end of Art Trek, putting some more theater in, and increasing what we do with our adults and youth in writing. So
cool.
I think I've been doing this a long time, and I won't do it forever. As other people rise up in the ranks and take over, and we have new directors, and in time, I'd like to see Art Trek broaden its scope into the other arts.
Yeah.
So we've touched upon theater, we've touched upon music, and we've touched upon writing. So I think we're going to fan out and make those, venues more available.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to continue to partner even more heavily with our other arts organizations in the community. We never want to bump into anybody in an uncomfortable way, any of the other arts organizations, just partner.
Yeah.
So our growth is, I do believe we'll continue to grow. And it's not always in size.
Yeah.
Because we're pretty big right now, and we're not franchising out. But grow in our depth.
Yeah.
We were a sapling once upon a time, and we're a mighty oak in our community. And so how will that mighty oak stay healthy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I think that's great, especially because of your experience and what you bring and what you know from an arts standpoint, because you do understand the value of performing arts and writing and all of that.
Right.
That's been something you've experienced, and it feels like the natural next step.
It was where we started, to be honest. In the very, very beginning,
Oh, wow.
It was half visual and half performing arts.
Oh, okay.
And it evolved into the visual arts. So I'm curious if we can take it back to the beginning. I know that seed was planted once upon a time. It's like if we dig through, will it be able to manifest some roots
Yeah,
and begin to flourish also.
that's cool. I
And
love
I'm
it.
really interested in that. And we will continue to work with diverse groups of people and, those terms, and create equity in the availability of arts in communities that don't have great access,
Mm-hmm.
and to be available for the communities that like are always
Yeah.
delving into the arts.
Yeah.
But it's a spreading out to some degree, and those roots have to go very deep, because the deeper your roots are, when the droughts occur, you survive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So AI and how that has just permeated throughout everything. How has that been affecting the arts and even how you guys are teaching or anything like that? The experience.
Not at all for my staff.
Okay.
First of all, I'm going to tell you that the staff gets like bristly when I mention AI. So we don't use it very much. Now, I do use it. So I use it as a director. I refer to, sometimes AI is my best friend when I have questions about sort of how to manage complicated situations,
Right.
or approaching a contract, a new type of contract. So I have found it very useful, and for a greater understanding of arts organizations and community efforts. There's a lot of information on AI. Our staff, generally speaking, doesn't use it or doesn't want to talk about using
Right.
it.
Right.
I know that it is the future. It's going to be the most wonderful and potentially the most problematic aspect of society
Right.
as we move forward. So my husband's really well versed in AI for his work, and he's taught me how to use it to acquire various kinds of ideas and information and move forward, but more from an executive function.
Right. Like a
role.
resource, a tool, basically.
Yeah,
for information.
Human resource. When you say resource, for our HR community, and not so much in the arts itself or the arts themselves. I use it to research great public art. For example, I might ask for some great public art exhibits that are accessible for purchase or loan for a program. But I don't use it for our lessons.
Right.
I'm still totally dependent on our staff. So I think AI is a bit threatening for people who do the work themselves.
Right.
So we have a lot of people who create art lessons, build the art lessons, and they use their creativity for that. I think, to be honest, I think people might slip into some AI, but they're not sharing that with me at this
Right.
point. And there is a fear for many people that they're going to lose their jobs to AI. So I do see the young people I work with a little concerned about it, and I know it's coming, and it's being used, and it's something I have enjoyed familiarizing myself with. But it hasn't really changed our trajectory in terms of how we're creating lessons or how we're hiring
Yeah.
staff.
Okay. That
Ask
makes
me
sense.
that in 5 years, or
I know.
ask somebody that in 5
I
years.
know, truly, right?
Right.
Yeah. I can ask somebody probably next week.
Or in 6 months.
I know, yeah. Okay.
It may
Thanks
be
for that.
different.
Yeah, it may be. So
Yeah.
true. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any last thoughts?
Thank you for this. So I'm really happy your son is working with Art Trek.
So am I.
So he's wonderful, and he's like one of those employees with a spark. He's so positive, and he hadn't taught,
Yeah.
and he has learned to be a wonderful teacher because he cares about the kids with
Yeah.
whom he works. So he's got a lot of art skill that he now has learned to break down and to share
Yeah.
in the classroom.
Yeah.
And the kids really, really look forward to Brandon coming in.
Oh, thank you. Well, he loves it, and that I can't thank you enough for that, because it means a lot to him, and it means he's valued, and
Right.
that's so important. So I thank you for that.
Thank
really
you for
do.
caring about the arts. And
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like I, my our family was that was the thing. Since little kids. I mean, go to the museum, sit and take a pad of paper and draw what you see, and then performing arts is a part of our lives anyway. So and music and all that. So yeah. Oh, this is great. Oh my gosh, Nan, this is
well, thank you
awesome.
very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, number one, I thought make and keep good communication and friendships in your business activities. Don't lose them and don't damage them. Never take anything personally as you're developing your business. Look long term, which I didn't do early on, but manage everything daily. When I was very young and I wasn't on the internet, I literally went to the bank every day to see how I was managing, as we were starting a business, the business. And that was fun for me, very hands-on. But look long term, but manage it daily. Be frugal, but never cheap. And never cheap with your staff. Be generous of spirit and as generous as you can be with people with whom you work. Make sure everybody stays spirited and interested in whatever it is you're doing. When people get tired of what's being done, there's a problem. If they're not excited, it's a problem. Lead really well. But remember, you are part of the group at the same time. You're not separate as a director or a CEO. Keep yourself humble, keep yourself hungry, and keep yourself smart. If you lose that desire and you're not part of your group at the same time, you're going to lose track as to what's happening with the people around you. So I mentioned sapling before.
Mm-hmm.
We're all saplings when we get started. So remember, we're all continually growing in that. And love what you're doing. Whoops. And that is the key. Or there's no point in doing it.
That's cool. I love that. Okay, so now we're going to do the rapid five. Are you ready?
Tell me the rapid five again.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you. There we
Oh,
go.
you're going to ask
Okay,
me
ready?
questions. Okay. Oh, yeah, I know. I remember.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I wanted to be a song leader, but I couldn't sing, so it was a problem. But I really liked playing guitar, and I really loved my song leaders at camps. I wanted to be a song leader.
I love that. What always makes you smile?
Creative moments, I
Okay.
mean, and interaction,
Okay, I like that. That's cool.
and little kids.
Little kids.
Little kids.
We had somebody who had said a baby's laugh, and that's
Yeah.
it's just yeah, you
My
can't. It's just
grandkids.
infectious. Oh wow. Okay. What do you know now as an adult that you wish you knew as a kid?
Everything passes quickly. The moments really do matter, but there are, God willing, there are moments forward.
Mm-hmm.
So,
This too shall pass. Then.
this too shall pass, and I don't think you can ever really teach a young person that.
Yeah.
So,
They gotta get through that.
yeah,
The thing's gotta pass.
yeah, it's just got to, yeah, but I do know that now.
Yep. Okay.
So,
What is your guilty pleasure?
long bike rides.
Okay.
So, really long bike rides, like 50 to 60 miles,
Oh,
40 to
wow.
50 to 60 mile bike rides.
Do you have a favorite spot that you like to do, or?
Yeah, France actually, but
Okay.
so I like long-term bike rides, long distance bike rides,
Oh, neat.
getting on a bike and hiking.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that I get away from it all, and I am renewed when I return.
Nice. Okay, and then the final thing, cat or dog?
Dog,
Aha! Do you have a dog now?
I do.
What kind of dog?
Oh, I have a Basenjiawa, part Basenji. Most people haven't heard of that, and part Chihuahua. So a Basenji doesn't bark, and a Chihuahua does, and they got mostly the Chihuahua. So I inherited this dog, but I've always had a dog.
Perfect. Nan, thank you so much.
Thank
This
you
has
very
been
much, Linda.
Absolutely a pleasure,
Yeah.
and I was looking so forward to this. I'm glad we got to do it.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for taking the time. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. we will be back again, but please take a look in the link below, in the description below, to link and learn more about Nan Young and Art Truck. It's fantastic, and I truly, and just personal thing, I'm so grateful for it because of all the things it does for the community, and it has done for my son. That's a personal little thing. So thank you guys. We'll see you next time on F5 Collective Presents Women in Business.
Thank you.
You.